second video. It's been a little while. For those who don't know me, my name is Melinda and I am endeavouring to share some of my sewing, quilting, embroidery, knitting, textile creative projects here on this YouTube channel. I'm not actually sure how long it's been since my first video, but I've been chipping away at all my little projects and I've got just a little bit to share with you today. My little boy is sleeping, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to record. We'll see what we can get through. I think in the last video I was mentioning that I was going to make the Bonnie woven top by Style Arc, so I've completed that project, and here it is. It's a nice little white little top with a button placket down the back. I use that vintage fabric from the sewing basket, and I have fully lined it, like I said, which has worked really well. I didn't follow any of the instructions on the pattern because the instructions were for facings, so I completely sort of made it up as I went along. It has worked out really well. I haven't worn it yet because it's just slightly, I did measure and picked my size based on my measurements, but it's just a bit too big around the armholes and down the side. So what I think I need to do is just unpick a bit and just redo that seam down the side and take it in on each side a little bit more. I didn't do a toile because there's another little issue with the darts. They're just facing, when I put it on, they're not angled for my body and just not in the correct position for my body. But I think I'm just going to live with that, leave that, make a note of it so that if I ever go to make this pattern again, I know what to alter. And I do actually have enough fabric if I ever wanted to make this again, so that's not an issue. But definitely, just to make it wearable, I definitely need to just take in the side seam. And if I was to, only other thing I do is I have quite a small chest, and I always find that things gape out the front, and this one it does as well. And I had thought before I started cutting my fabric, should I take, like it's just like a centimetre out, like chopped out of the pattern from the neckline down. Should I do that? Didn't do it, regret that now. But note to do that for next time. The other thing I did, which I was really pleased with on this project, when I started this project, I'd also followed along with the Tata series for hand sewing. They didn't show how to do a hand sewn buttonhole, but it sort of inspired me to have a go. So all my buttonholes here are hand stitched. So that was a really fun element to do, because my sewing machine, as you can see, it's just a straight stitch machine, so there's no buttonhole capability. I do have another little domestic machine that I could pull out if I wanted to, but at the time I didn't have the right attachment for my machine to do that, so I was like, I enjoy hand stitching anyway, so I'll just give that a go. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So the fact that it took me longer than it would normally if you were to do it on a machine really didn't bother me at all. I don't set any time limits with any of my projects. I just sort of work on them as I go along, and when they get finished, and that's great. I just sort of try and enjoy the process. So that is one. I'm going to call it successful make, even though I'm going to try and do the alteration to that before I start anything new. So at least that doesn't sit in the cupboard, needing to be finished and not being worn. It is going into winter now here where I am in Sydney, Australia, so I don't think I'll be able to get to wear this much, but at least be ready to go for spring, summer later this year. My next project is actually the one I'm wearing. This was a big success. I'm super proud and super happy with how this worked out. This one is the Rosa pattern by Roseary Apparel, and it just worked out really, really well. I sort of can't, not a lot of space to show you, but it's just a sweet little sort of fit and flare. Got the gathers around the waist skirt. It's midi length, it's quite a high neck, set and shoulder sleeves, and it's got just an invisible zip down the back. And again, I didn't trial this, but it just actually ended up fitting really like a glove. I wouldn't have had to do any alterations if I did do a trial. The only thing I did do was I took some extra fabric out from the seam allowance. I think I've got, I think it was a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, and I've just sort of halved that and given some extra fabric just around the bodice, and it's made it really comfy. But the darts have sat perfectly, and the shoulders are perfect. The neckline is really high, and if I was to do it again, I would lower it all the way around. It's just a bit too high for what I would, I guess, design for myself. But it's, sorry, that's my dog. There's a lot of little bits of construction noise all around us. Feels like everybody's doing something today to their homes. So I apologise if you can hear that and if you can hear my dog barking. Yeah, that's probably the only one alteration, would be just a lower neckline, and maybe just add back in some fabric into the seam, so if I ever did need to do any further adjustments in the future, I had some extra seam allowance there. It's also got pockets, which, you know, everything has to have pockets these days. The fabric is beautiful. I'm not actually sure what it is because it is from the sewing basket, so it's you know, donated secondhand. Could be a viscose, I'm not sure, but it's just this beautiful black base with this beautiful floral design on it, and just completely my style. It's really, I've been wearing it to work heaps. It's just, yeah, super appropriate for work. The only other things I did differently with this dress is I got really frustrated with my overlocker when doing the Bonnie woven top. I was trying to, because of how open weave that the shell fabric was, I was trying to overlock it just to make sure, I know it was fully lined, but just to make sure it sort of stood up to some gentle machine washing. But I just need to, I think I just need to rethread it again. But it just wasn't working for me, and I was fed up. I was like, I don't want to use it, but I want to keep sewing. So I made this dress, still doing all the seams on my straight stitch machine behind me, but I finished all the other seams without using the overlocker. So I might insert a little video where I show you up close all the different seam details, but I'll just talk you through a few now. So for example, the neckline, instead of doing the facing and not being able to overlock the facing, I just did some bias binding. I already had some of this just poly cotton binding in a drawer, so I just pulled that out and used that, and I've hand stitched it down hand stitched it down as well. The only other place I've used bias binding is just to cover the seam with all the gathers. This fabric does fray a bit, so I had to keep that in mind, because I will go through like a gentle machine wash to whenever I need to wash it. And so because of just the amount of fabric and the amount of fraying after gathering it and sewing it down, I decided to do that as well. What else? Did just hand stitched rolled hem on the sleeves and the hem of the skirt, and then the side seams I've done what I think is called a clean finish. So I'll just try and show you the seam here. It's black, so it's not going to come up at all. Anyway, it's a normal seam pressed flat open, and then I've tucked the raw edge behind and done a straight stitch on the edge, which just, yeah, secures it off from any fraying. So I've done that down the skirt side seams. I did that down the zipper, invisible zipper seam all the way down the back. I've then, around the armholes, I've just done a whip stitch. So I have Louise's hand stitching book. She shows you how to fully hand stitch a garment from scratch, which I'm just absolutely in awe of, and I might attempt to do a fully hand stitched garment at some point in the future, but I'm just doing all the finishing by hand has just blown me away, and I've really enjoyed the process, and I think I'll definitely keep doing it, to the point where I was like, maybe I don't even need my overlock anymore. It's not going anywhere for now, but yeah, it just surprised me how much I have enjoyed all the hand stitching I put into this dress. So I whip stitched the armhole seams. I've also whip stitched the pocket seam allowances as well. I've done flat fell seams for the shoulders. That means it's just super flat. Don't think I'm ever going to have to alter those, so I thought it's fine to just fully stitch that down. Yeah, I think that's everything for this dress. But I really enjoyed the Rosa pattern from Roseary Apparel, so I'm definitely going to do some more of her dresses, because I mean, if this one fit perfectly, the likelihood is that the grading will be consistent across all her patterns, and the rest will fit pretty well as well, I'm imagining. So yeah, great success on this make. The other move on, so that were all my dressmaking projects that I have to share. Just got one embroidery finished project to share, and that's this little Sweet Lily of the Valley piece. So it's all done with one DMC stranded cotton thread, so just one thread on the needle, lots of silk, what do you call it, needle painting shading. Yeah, it's beautiful. I've just made it into a little pillow. I've used the scraps, so when I cut out the square, all the border that was left behind, I've just pieced it for the back. I've stuffed it with a little bit of polyfill, and most of it is actually fabric scraps, all the little bits that you cut off with all your little projects, and all the threads that you cut off. I've got a little jar sitting behind my sewing machine, and I just chuck it all in there, and then I've just been able to empty it all out because it was full to stuff this project. So that's just a little decorative pillow that I'll pull out to decorate in my living room during spring. But that was a sweet little project. I hadn't really planned to do this. I had this kit. I don't know if I've said it yet, but this kit's from Caroline Zoob. And she's got beautiful designs. So got a heap more from her to do as well. It's sitting in the cupboard. It's a little bit nostalgic because I'm pretty sure it was Lily of the Valley or very similar flowers in my wedding bouquet. But they will come out each spring as a little seasonal decoration for my living room. So I was really pleased with that finish. The other project that I've been working on is the Flower and Gum quilt pattern by Ruth De Vos. So I'll show you, I'm not sure what I showed you last week. I think it was just one quilt block, but I've done a few up until this point. So can't remember which one was the first, but let's see if I can. There's one. I have gotten better with the curved seams as I've done them, so some are a little bit more puckered than others, but that's okay. It's all part of the process. But just love the sort of Australian flower image. Like I said, you don't see it a lot in textile art, textile quilts. So they'll come together beautifully. All those fabrics are from the Scribbly Gum Quilt Co., which is another beautiful Australian business. Yeah, so really happy with that. I've got another quilt block all cut out ready to sew together. So how many blocks is that I've done? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've done 4, almost done 5. So on track with my plan, because I'm going to just do, I'm following Ruth's block of the month that she released quite a few years ago. I'm just following her plan for that. So just getting one, a few months she had 2 blocks together. You had to get 2 done in 1 month. So I'm just following her plan and chipping away that, so that I should have all the blocks completed by the end of December, which will be really nice. And then in January, hopefully I'll have time to piece it all together and finish the quilt. Since I last recorded a video, I've also done my first workshops at my local community college. Sorry, I just saw my neighbour through the window, distracted me for a minute. But yeah, I had done my first patchwork quilting and embroidery for beginners workshop at my local community college, which was really fun. It was a bit, you know, nerve-wracking to start off with, as anything that you do for the first time, but they felt successful. We've booked some more dates going forward, which is really exciting. So I'll link those, link that down below if you're local, you're interested in joining me. And for that, for the patchwork quilting workshop, I had put together all these beautiful Indian textiles that I had received as a gift from my aunt from her most recent trip to India. Put those in as a like an example of what we're gonna finish or attempt to finish in the 2-day workshop. So this was quite ambitious. I'm going to scale it back a little bit for the next one. When I say scale it back, I'm just going to make the blocks a little bit bigger, because the sewing of all the blocks I think was a bit intense, and then because they're small, the need to do more quilt lines to line up with all the quilt blocks, there was a lot of sewing. The ladies who joined me for the workshop did an absolutely incredible job. I mean, they're all first time attempting their own quilt, and yeah, they did incredibly well, but it was a big ask for beginners. So while it's sort of a beginner friendly pattern, I think we'll just make, I think these were 6-inch blocks. I think we might make them 8 or 10-inch blocks, just to make it a bit bigger, and just take the pressure off from having to just sit on the machine and churn out the whole quilt in 2 Saturdays. But yes, my example here is that it's all sandwiched with backing and it's ready for quilting. So I'm just going to do some diagonal lines for the quilting, but I thought I'd show you the back, because I was trying to tell the ladies at my workshop, like, they're all trying to make it perfect, but I was like, I often put all my scraps at the back, because, you know, money's tight and I don't necessarily want to spend more money. So all these, even these here, it's all my scraps. And then that piece there, it was just a piece that I had sitting in a drawer, wasn't planned for anything, but the colour worked really well with the rest of the fabrics that I've included. So that is always an option. That's what I generally generally what I always do. Sorry, what am I trying to say? Generally what I always do for my quilt backings is if I have any fabric left over from the project and I know, or I have a feeling that I'm not going to use them again, it's just sort of wasteful, just sitting in the cupboard not being used. If I know I'm not feeling particularly inspired by those fabrics anymore, and I know I'm probably not going to make anything else out of them, then why not piece them all together for the backing or the binding, and get them out of the way. And then and I quite like that, the touch that it's handmade. I really like that. I'm a maker, so I appreciate handmade touches. I don't want my makes to come out like you could have bought them from the shop. That's sort of, I know that's what some people strive for, and if that's what you do, great. But it's just not what I strive for. I always strive for handmade. Like, you could tell that was handmade, which I know there's some people hate that, like, you could tell that something was handmade. But even with this dress, like, you can tell that if you looked really close, obviously it's black, so it's pretty well hidden, but you can see some hand stitches around here and on the shoulder seams, but I love that. The last project, it's still a work in progress, so it's a whip. I really wish to have had it done by now, but it's just taken me a bit longer than I anticipated, which is my knitting project. So sorry, I keep all my projects on the floor, so I keep bending down. I need to sort of put them on the table. But this was, I hadn't started this last week, but I think I mentioned it as a plan. This is the Margaux top by Gregoria Fibres. So it's a little sleeveless summer knit top with this beautiful texture, and actually it has been fun to do that texture. I'm getting a bit tired of it now because I'm almost at the end of the texture section. So I've done the whole, so it's knit from bottom up in the round until you separate for the armholes. But so that's the front. So I've done all the short row shapings, which was the first time I've ever done short row shapings. So that was Harvey, sorry, he's really agitated today with all the extra noises from the constructions and different things going on around us today. So they're all on holders for when you join the shoulders together. There are so many mistakes in this. I've ripped it out multiple times and restitched it, but I've got to the point where I'm just celebrating any mistakes that are still there. Most of the mistakes I feel like most people wouldn't notice, and so I'm just rolling with it for now. Harvey, and sorry, and I've got the baby monitor over there to check for my son. He's not waking up with the dog barking. And I've got 2 more rounds of the pattern, 2 more repeats of the pattern to go, but almost on the back, and then I'll do the short row shaping and all that, and the ribbing, and then join the shoulders up. And then the last thing to do will be, and I've never done this before, but to do the ribbing around the armholes. So there was quite a few new techniques for me in this project, which has been great, but has just taken me a while. I've also, like, just because it's 100%, well, not 95% cotton, 5% recycled material. Is that right? No, it's recycled cotton. I think it's recycled denim cotton. So it's 95% recycled denim cotton and then 5% other. Because of that, it just has been tedious on the hands. On the whole, managed it really well, but I'm a bit tired, and I'm sort of feel like I don't want to do any more cotton projects for a little while. I've ordered some wool, some Australian wool yarn from Say Little Hen, so that should arrive in the next few days, and I'll share with it. It's beautiful. It's got some recycled sari through the wool, but it's mostly wool, and so I'm really looking forward to just getting back to wool and enjoying the knitting process a little bit more. I'm not sure what pattern I'm going to do, haven't decided, but it will, I think because of how beautiful the yarn is, it's got all these speckled sari threads through it, that it has to be quite simple. But I am imagining a pullover, a long sleeve, because we're going into winter, so a long sleeve pullover. I think it's a sport weight yarn, so something along those lines, but I'll share that with you next time. But in the meantime, I'm just going to try and get this done. This is sort of the main project that I'm just trying to chip away at now and get it done. Probably won't get to wear this until next spring, summer, because we are in autumn. It's been a really hot autumn here, but it is starting, like we've felt the shift in the season, and we're starting to get cooler weather, so I might get a day here or there where it's warmer and I can wear this. I'm wondering, because it's like a boat neck style top, whether I could put like a long sleeve black top underneath and get a little bit more wear out of it. But once it's done, I'll have a play around with some outfit combos and see if I can get a little bit more use out of it. But I really have enjoyed this knitting project, and I'm really hopeful that it will look nice, it will fit nice. Yeah, so really excited about that. Yeah, that is my last project to share. When it comes to dressmaking, my next project I have in my mind is to do a stretch knit long sleeve top project. I've got some beautiful knit fabric, so some jersey fabric from the sewing basket that I'm planning to make maybe one of the Tessuti patterns, and I'm wondering whether that will be a project that I do completely by hand. Two reasons: just falling in love with the hand stitch process, making a hand stitch garment, and number two, again, I love my straight stitch sewing machine. I used to have a Benina B710 before this one, which I then sold because I just wasn't loving it. Bought this and just fell completely in love with just the simplicity of this machine. This one is a Brother PQ 1500, and just I cannot speak highly enough of it. But it does just do a straight stitch, so there's no zigzag, there's no stretch stitch, and like I said, I do have, I think it's an Elna machine. It was secondhand. I picked up a few a while ago thinking I might run some workshops from home, but I ended up contacting the community college instead. But this machine I have bought, when I purchased it from its previous owner, it came with no other feet, just the standard foot. So I've since purchased a whole set of feet for that machine, you know, buttonhole, walking foot, all of it. So I could always pull that out and sew my knit top on that machine, but it does mean having to pull it out, set it up. I could also use my overlocker, but it's in this process of I need to completely rethread it, figure out why the thread that goes through one of the needles at the top kept snapping. And I didn't completely rethread it, but every time I tried to where it snapped off, rethread it through from that point back into the needle, it would just snap again. And it's not, the thread itself is not old, so it's not brittle. So it probably will solve itself if I just rethread it all from scratch. Just can't be bothered, particularly when I'm time poor, and I'm trying to be efficient with, well, not necessarily efficient, because I generally just go with the flow with my projects, and like I said, I don't have like a timeline or a deadline, but just sort of fell in love with the process. It was just annoying me, and that's where I was like, I'm just gonna try and do some hand stitch finishes on the next garment, which was this one. And like I said, I've just fallen in love with that process and slowing down and not needing things to be done, you know, in a few hours. Just like, it's going to take me a little bit of extra time, a few days, you know, if I do little bits over a week, like that's fine as well. So we'll see which way I go. I probably will cut off a little sample of the stretch fabric and see how I go hand stitching that. If I like how that feels to stitch, then I might just dive in and go with that. And then if not, the overlocker or my sewing machine will do the job. So that's my next dressmaking pattern. I've talked briefly about my knitting, my thoughts for my next knitting project. I've got some yarn. I didn't pull it down, but I've got some yarn. It's just one skein. It's just a sock fingering weight yarn. It's variegated, hand dyed. I got it off a D-Stash Instagram account ages ago, so I can't even remember who D-Stashed it. But I was thinking of making some of I think they're called fire pit knits from the wool hanger needles. Yeah, going into winter, I think that would be great for walking my dog, who's been absolutely insane today. I really do apologise about that, and hopefully it's still been enjoyable to follow along with me today. With the quilting project, just keep working on the next few blocks, and I don't have any embroidery projects in mind, but I might just grab out one of Caroline Zoob's kits that I've got in the cupboard. excuse me, because he's going to wake up my child. Back. That's my day at the moment with all the, everybody's sort of doing, fixing up this and that in their home, or we've got the next door neighbours are doing a full extension and putting in a swimming pool and the whole works. So there's a lot of hammering and just different noises, and the dog is just going crazy. Poor hubby is just going crazy. I might share him, pop him up on screen next time. He's a little cappy, so he's very cute. But yes, I don't have any specific embroidery projects in mind, but for me, embroidery is my first love, and I just love stitching away at night. It's sort of a mindless thing for me. I don't have to think about it too much, particularly if it's a kit. So yeah, that's it for me for this video. I hope you're all well, and you're having fun with all your crafty sewing projects, and I will catch you next time. Thank you. Bye. So I'm back because I forgot to talk about all the books that I have received recently. So I've had my birthday the previous weekend, which was lovely. Had dinner with the family out in the city. It's always hard juggling with a little toddler, but it was nice to have lots of people around to help out with him. But I've received quite a few books, and there's a couple more coming in the mail as well, which I'll share next time. But I've got 4 books here that I'd like to share because I'm really excited about them. So the first one is, like I've already mentioned, Louise's book, Hand Sewing Clothing, a guide. So I picked that up. I actually picked that up from Beyond a Measure, so they're in the UK, but I couldn't find anybody in Australia selling this, and they were really the only ones I could find that would ship to Australia, and it's a gorgeous book, so I highly recommend. I read it from cover to cover, and that got me super inspired and excited to hand stitch and finish off all my seams on this project. The next books are these 3 books. I haven't really read through or flicked through them. Really excited to read through them from cover to cover, but they're on my, they're sitting, these books at the moment are sitting, would usually be sitting beside my bed. So the next one is Farm and Folk Quilt Alchemy. They're just stunning. Her quilts are absolutely stunning, and again, I love her approach with the natural dyeing, the hand stitching, particularly with the quilting, the traditional patterns, all her designs, they're beautiful. So they'll give me lots of quilting inspiration, I'm sure. The next one I got is The Dress Diary of Mrs. Anskies. So Secrets from a Victorian Woman's Wardrobe. Sounds like a really interesting book. So a lady in the Victorian period kept a diary, collecting snippets of fabrics from the garments she was wearing, and she annotated each, so it's a unique record of her life. So Amber Butchart, hopefully I said that correctly, she's then written like a story based on, sorry, was that correct? No, that's the person who reviewed the book, Kate Strasden. Hopefully I said that correctly as well. She's, it says at the back here, a dress historian. So she's gone through that journal and written this book. So super excited. It's got some images as well from some of the snippets of her journal with some of the textiles that she was wearing. So that'll be a really fun book to read as well. I'll let you know how that one goes. And the last one I have to share is The Colours of Nature. Pretty sure this book, is it Scandinavian? Can't remember. It's been on my list to buy for a while, but I can't remember where the authors were from. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's from somewhere in Scandinavia, but it's a beautiful book with this black cover and the gold foiling, but it talks you through the whole process of natural dyeing. So yeah, really excited to dig into that because that's something I have done a little bit of in the past, something I'm interested in doing more of, particularly when it comes to embroidery, doing some natural dye to then embroider into. So that is something that's on my mind as well. So it's been great to have like a resource book to go back and get some more ideas. The last thing I forgot to share and I wanted to share with you all in this video is I mentioned last time in the last video that I was gonna have some of these flowers earrings for sale, so I have popped them up on Instagram, so I'll link that below. I've got these ones and I've got some a red version that's slightly different, but I've really enjoyed wearing them because they're super light. You don't even feel that they're on, and I feel like the trend at the moment is for all these big statement earrings, and again, it's another way to show off your hand, like that you're somebody who either loves handmade or is a handmaker, therefore loves it. Yeah, I don't know, just I've really enjoyed wearing them. So I've got them up on a separate Instagram account. Like I said, I'll link that below. And currently I've got them up for $30 Australian, so Australian dollars plus postage. Not sure what the postage would be outside of Australia, but if you're interested, just get in contact with me. Yeah, and I'd love to see how everybody styles these beautiful earrings. Yeah, nice to finally put that up there and be able to share those with everybody as well. So these flowers were, I haven't crocheted these myself. These were crocheted by my nana, and I have a whole pile of them, and I was like, don't know what to do with them. Eventually I thought they would make really sweet earrings, which is what I've done, and I really enjoy wearing them as earrings. So yeah, if you're interested, go check that out. I would really appreciate your support. So that's it for me now. Thank you for following along and listening to my ramble. And I will see you next time. Have a really a great week. Bye.